this because there are so many ways that you might interpret this video. One way is you might think this is about attention, or you might think that I think my challenges and struggles are more than others, and it's not true, but I don't know, just nervous. The reason I'm making this video is partially to answer simple questions like, why do I wear these full noise canceling headphones while recording almost every video? But also, I'm hoping that if some of you are worried about or struggling with hearing related issues, that I can tell my story and hopefully that'll help you, or it'll remind you to take care of your hearing. I don't know, but my goal is just to share my story and not to I don't know. It's actually been more than a year since I decided that I wanted to share this story, but it has taken me this whole year to gather the courage, because I try to keep this channel very happy and very positive, and a place for you and me to escape to and to find relaxing comfort. So this story might not be very relaxing to you, and if that's not what you need right now, because that's the most important thing, then maybe watch a different video and come back to this one if you want. Yeah. Enough disclaimer. I think I should just get started. Okay. So I was ear doctor, and they did some tests and immediately found that I'd lost a bunch of hearing, and they asked a whole bunch of questions, like, are you in a band? Are you a drummer? Did you take a really hard fall and get a concussion? Were you really sick? Just all of these normal questions, things that might have influenced my hearing. And the crazy thing was, I was just in rural Vermont, right? Where there wasn't much noise, that we didn't go to any shows or concerts or anything. And I wasn't sick. I didn't take any falls. And before my trip, I hadn't done anything. Like, I hadn't gone clubbing or gone too loud. Anything. And generally I do take care of my hearing. Like, I don't listen to music very loud. So, we had no idea what was happening. So they just diagnosed me with sudden hearing loss that we would hopefully figure out what caused it as we did more tests. My hearing was still getting worse as we checked it week by week, and that was scaring them and of course scaring me. And it was primarily in one side, which was lucky for me because then I do have one ear that can hear better, so that's useful. But it was also not a good sign, they thought. They were talking to me about different ideas because they thought since I wasn't sick, it was probably not infection related. So their leading theory was that I had a brain tumor, which you can imagine was not very fun to hear. It wasn't necessarily a malignant tumor, but they just didn't know. But anytime you hear the word brain tumor, you kind of freak out. So I was already not sleeping, like, at all. And I was very, very scared. So, yeah. And meanwhile, the noise was still continuing, and with the extra hearing loss that I was getting, it was getting worse. A little background on ringing in the ears. It's completely normal, so if you have it, that's okay. And it's kind of like the sound of the circuits in your brain. But you know how if, like, you look into a bright light and you have like a dark spot in your vision, that dark spot isn't actually there. It's an illusion. Like, it's something that your brain made up. There is no darkness there. Same thing with hearing. If you get hearing loss and your brain doesn't see anything coming from certain parts of your hearing, for me, high pitch, then it makes up first sight, it sounds like that movie noise in a few different tones, and they're all very high pitch and screechy. And then in my left side, it sounds like Morse code, like, or like a fast beeping, like a truck backing up. So not as much of a high pitch. I have like gaps of hearing that are gone, but not a whole range. So that is leaving me with like weird beeping noises, and I can hear those all the time, as well. So I definitely thought I was going crazy, even though they told me that the ringing was okay and normal. It was just very unsettling at the time, and so that made it so I could not sleep very well. Oh, the name of the ringing is called tinnitus or tinnitus, depending on how you pronounce it. And again, it's a very normal thing. It's most commonly associated with hearing loss, and but everyone has some amount of it. But the kind that I have with the tones and beeps and screeches and stuff is like more related with people who've been like in very loud environments and have damaged their hearing. But again, I didn't have that environment. So, okay, back to the story. So they thought I had a brain tumor. So they wanted me to get an MRI. And so they rushed me through the process, and I actually was able to get an MRI scheduled like the next week, which was tough to do. But in the meantime, we did a standard sudden hearing loss treatment of like steroids, and they're just a pill that I took, and the steroids are given in different doses depending on your age. And because I was healthy and young, they gave me one of the highest doses that they could. And that was interesting, being on such extreme steroids. But they said I'd probably have mood swings and like crazy stuff, but it wasn't that bad. At least the people I was living with didn't think so, or they didn't tell me. They're very nice, so maybe not, I don't know. But mostly it was, the main thing that it did to me was it made my heart rate very fast, and it gave me heart palpitations, and like I'd get dizzy and stuff, and at one point I had to go in for an ECG or EKG, and they found that I had some like induced arrhythmias or something, I forget, but all of that went away when I stopped doing the steroids. So all the while I was going through hearing tests very regularly to see if the steroids were helping. They said the chances of it helping were not very high, but it was still worth trying. And it didn't help. So, yeah, I was a little bit sad. But then it came time for my MRI. And actually, I thought the MRI was very fascinating. I'm always interested in how things work, and I exams, I would, like, there was a store across the street that had candles and random things, and I'd always go buy one. It wasn't like I was obsessed with candles before that, but I was just like, I don't know, having fun. Now I have so many candles that I have to burn them all now. I'm still working through some of them. Anyway, this MRI was very fascinating because, if not familiar, there are two types of MRIs. One is like the normal MRI, and one is with contrast, which is where they give you like an IV of a metal. So they put metal in your blood, and it's like a safe metal. But the metal, it highlights your blood vessels in the image because it's more reflective, or it reacts more to magnetic resonance. Anyway, it makes it so that they can see things like tumors and stuff like that. And also, it makes it so that you can see intricate parts of the body better. At least that's my understanding. I might be wrong. But the cool part about it was when they inject it, it's metal and it's very cold. And so I could literally feel it like going through my veins. Kind of creepy, but I thought it was exciting. The MRI itself, if you've had an MRI, was the same as like normal, like 40 minutes of very loud beeps and buzzes and screeches and stuff, which was the kind of stuff that I was not excited about because I was already dealing with that 24/7, and I was scared that those noises were loud enough to damage my hearing. But they said it wasn't. And the hearing tests after the exam, after the MRI, showed that it didn't decrease my hearing either, so that was good. So the MRI came back, and the doctor sat me down and said, good news, which I was very glad to hear. So, good news, I did not have a brain tumor, which was great. But they did find some nerve damage. So there are many different cranial nerves, or like larger nerves that connect directly to your brain. And one of them goes from your jaw through your ear and then to your brain, and it handles feeling in your jaw, and it handles hearing, and it handles your balance. And it had been, that nerve had been damaged on one side, and that side was the hearing side, unsurprisingly. And so they said that they asked me questions about my balance because apparently the damage was very close to the balance part, and if the damage got worse, or if I don't know, took a hard fall and hurt and like it ruptured the nerve a little more or something, that I could lose my sense of balance, which is very, very bad, like worse than hearing loss, because it makes you very sick, because you're kind of constantly in a state of like being on a roller coaster. Or gives you headaches and stuff and makes you have an uneasy stomach, to put it lightly. But I didn't have any of that, so I was very thankful. But they said be very careful, because if you damage this nerve more, then it could happen. So that's what I deal with now, is basically just trying to be careful to 70-year-old person, so someone in their 70s in one side, and not nearly that bad in the other side. So I can still talk to people and hear people, and that's very nice. But they said I'm definitely prone to more hearing loss if I'm not careful. So that is, yeah, that's where we were at. They did say that, they wanted to try one more treatment, and, this treatment was debatable. Like, some doctors advised it. I got a second opinion, I got a third opinion, and none of them could agree. But some of them said it's definitely a waste of time, and others said it's probably a waste of time, but there's a small chance that it might help. And so I said, okay, let's do it, because nobody was saying that it was gonna hurt me more. They just said that it was useless, or that the chances were very low that it would help. And even the most optimistic doctors were saying somewhere around 5 to 10% chance that it would help. I'm talking fast. So, the treatment, we went through with it, and what it was is, it was again another steroid treatment. But instead of taking it as a pill, they would inject it. This is kind of visceral, I'm sorry. They like make a hole in your eardrum and they inject it into your middle, into the inside of your ear. And they do that very regularly, like every couple days, or I forget how often. I don't know. I don't remember. It was quite frequent. It felt like it was every couple days, but I don't know if it was. Anyway, so that was probably the most terrible part, was getting the they have this arm from the ceiling, like a big giant metal arm, and it gets smaller and smaller, and at the tip is a needle, and that's all to just stabilize the needle so it doesn't move too much or go too far in or all of that stuff, because you've got a brain in there too. And it was just so bad, very painful, and very uncomfortable when they make the hole and inject and all of that stuff. Definitely not a relaxing video today. So I had to do that a whole bunch of times, and we kept monitoring my hearing, and it didn't get any better, which we kind of all knew, but it was worth the shot. So that brings me to now, because after that we kind of just said, okay, they said you have hearing loss and it's stable, so you're probably okay now. They said they still have no idea what caused it. And apparently that's very common. People with sudden hearing loss often don't find out what caused it. And so we're just monitoring at this point, and my hearing has gotten only slightly worse by 5 to 10%, but it's not a trajectory that I would like to maintain, because I'm still young, and if it gets too much making another video when I get the courage for that one. But I've broken the ice now, so maybe it'll happen soon. Or maybe I'll just have to do it as my next video. I don't know. I'm planning on making another video about how hearing loss affects day-to-day life. And hopefully that'll explain a little bit about my situation and also explain that it's not that bad in some ways, and also explain how it is kind of tough in other ways, so that hopefully if you're struggling with something similar, that you know that you're not alone. And if you do struggle with something similar, then could you please reach out? You don't have to if you're not comfortable, but I personally have not actually met that many people who have faced similar things, because it's a very unique situation, and I don't know, hoping that maybe I'll meet some people this way. So, just a little bit more. That is why I wear these headphones all the time, because I can barely hear myself whispering when I'm not wearing them, because high-pitch sounds are where I've lost the most hearing. So actually ASMR in general is very hard for me to hear, and it doesn't do me much good to just turn the volume up a lot, partially because it stresses me out because I don't want to damage my hearing, and partially because when you turn it up, you turn up the high pitches, but you also turn up the low pitches, so it's tough to handle the weirdness of that. And then there's also hearing aids and things like that. But especially when you're going to sleep, it's not like it's wearing headphones and a hearing aid and trying to sleep, and it's just it's tougher. So ASMR is actually, it was something I listened to every night for, I don't know, at least like maybe I missed a few nights, but in general almost every night for the last decade, or I don't even know, since it wasn't called ASMR. It was something I just every night, and sometimes when I took naps in the middle of the day. But now I don't really listen to ASMR anymore because I just can't hear it very well. So that's actually why I started making ASMR videos, because I can't hear that. It's kind of weird that when I make a video, I can edit it in a way that is making it is relaxing, and editing it is relaxing to me, and that's why I do it. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. So yeah, anyway, so that's why I wear the headphones, and also why I always have an Apple Watch on, actually, because one of my favorite features about it is it monitors your surrounding noise levels, so I always know if I'm in a safe or a dangerous environment noise-wise, so that I can take care of my ears. But yeah, that's why I am going to continue making these videos, is that it's my way of still having ASMR. It doesn't give me tingles because doesn't do that anymore, but it's still very therapeutic and very relaxing and meditative. And when you all are very encouraging and very thoughtful and kind in the comments, then it reminds me how much ASMR helped me through lots of things. And I wish that it could help me a little more right now, but the hearing things are very complicated, and the ringing is very, very loud for me. But I'm getting used to ignoring it. It's mostly when I forget to ignore it, which is kind of weird sounding, but like, it's mostly when I think about it and talk about it that it gets a lot worse. And when it's nighttime, when it's quiet. So, I'll talk about all of that later. Well, I appreciate you being here a lot. Thank you for sticking with me through all of my videos and weirdness and stuff. And yeah, I know I say this a lot, but for those of you who comment and who are just very supportive, like, you are crazy supportive.